welcome everybody. It's so nice to see all of you. And for those of you who are on Facebook, welcome. I can't see you, so I have my lovely assistant, Anna, um, who is monitoring Facebook so we can see if there's questions there. But if you're on the Zoom call, then we can interact. So that's kind of fun. And if you would, if you don't mind, the people on Zoom putting your cameras on, because it's just fun to see the faces. So hi, welcome to everybody who's showing up here. So today we're going to talk about soul families. And that was a request. One of the participants a couple of weeks ago had asked for a talk on soul families. And I was thinking today, there's a lot to cover in this, and I don't want to just be lecturing and teaching the whole time. I really want some questions from the audience. And I know a few of you are good at questions. Jan's laughing because no, I want you to ask questions.
Today's the day.
You're the best question asker ever. Although I can't hear you. I don't know if you're talking, but I can't hear you.
I'm talking now. Can you hear me now?
Nope, we can't hear you. Anyway,
I'm not on.
So we're going to talk about soul families. And if you have questions, you can put them in the chat box, or you can raise your hand and ask. And if you're on Facebook, you can put it in the chat part. But what do people know about soul families? Do you have any idea? Like, what does this mean to you? Cinda, can I? Yeah, good. I felt like maybe you had an answer.
Oh, well, to me, it means
here's the problem. Cinda, can I? Yeah, good. I felt like maybe you had an answer.
Oh, well, to me, it means
here's the problem. Cinda, can I? Yeah, good. I felt like maybe you had an answer.
To me, it means
here's the there. Sorry about that. I was getting the echo here. I muted the wrong thing. Can Anna, can you still hear me on Facebook? Yes. Okay. All right. Now we're ready. Cinda.
I was just going to say that I thought it meant that we incarnate together, not at the same time, but we come to end up at the same place. That was my thinking. I don't know if I'm right.
Well, that would be how a soul family, soul relations might function, but what would they be? Do you know how they're formed, or why we would call people family?
Because we've incarnated before, we've lived lives together before.
Okay.
I really don't know. I can see that now.
But you know what? I'm happy that you're brave enough to talk and to put it out there, because let's hear what people have been thinking. You know, what has been the thoughts around that. Jan, you were going to say something and I couldn't hear you at the time. But
Well, my thought is a soul family is souls that are living in a pod together somewhere in the astral plane, and then they come down to have lessons and experiences that will evolve their soul. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Okay. Some more ideas. Josephine. Oh, you have to unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. To me, I think it's the people we can connect with in this lifetime. That maybe at one point in time in our past lives we were connected as a family, or we have soul relationship kind of thing. I don't know.
Right.
Yes, but
well,
I think it's the people we connect, people and animals we connect with, I think.
So it would be something, so you're thinking that it's something that we do, like I connect with you and then that makes us family?
maybe we have some soul relationships somewhere sometime.
Okay. But
You
that's
know?
what we're talking about. We're talking about that soul relationship.
Yeah.
So again, it's sort of like what Cinda said, we reincarnate together and we find each other. Um, but it's due to that other relationship that was created, right?
Maybe.
Maybe,
It's just a guess.
who
Yeah.
knows?
Thank you.
um, anybody else have an idea?
Hi, Mary.
Hi, Debbie, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I've had like a little look into it, and it seems to be that that when you reincarnate through your lives, you have a group of people that are around you that become your soul family. I'm not sure how they become your soul family in the first place. And your soul family then, whether they be neighbours, friends, your husband, a person you despise, you're all there to learn lessons. But also you can go into a life, I believe, that you don't actually may not cross paths because you may take some different decisions that, so you may not meet that soul, somebody from your soul family. So it could be in a next life. I believe that it's about learning lessons together, but I'm not really sure how you start off with the soul family, how that begins.
Yeah, again, like everybody's been defining it, do you see the difference between how you're talking about the way that they function together rather than what they are? So far our, which is interesting to me to hear this because, this is what we're gleaning out of the material you're either reading or conversations you're having or classes you're taking, and you're talking about how soul relationships function, which is a verb, right? It's what you're doing together rather than the noun of what are you together?
Mm.
How did that relationship form? What does it mean? What is it by nature? If that makes some sense, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it actually brings to mind, kind of a divergence here, but there are 5 branches of philosophy. Okay. And so metaphysics is one of them, and then epistemology, ethics, politics, and aesthetics, right? So metaphysics, even though we use that term as though it means, beyond the physical world or spirituality or something, metaphysics is actually the study of all reality. So it's just metaphysics is what is something by nature. So what we're talking here with soul relationships, my question is, what is the metaphysics of soul relationships? What are they? Epistemology answers the question, how do we know? So it's a really good word to have in your vocabulary, by the way, because when somebody's spouting off a philosophy or telling you something, you can always answer with, and what is your epistemology? And that usually sends them to the dictionary, and then you get a break in the conversation. Anyway, epistemology is, how do we know it? You know, do you have personal information about that? Did you do some scientific studies? Um, have you had, it's the feedback loop. Have you, proposed a theory and then seen it to be true, over many attempts to research that? Does it always prove to be true? That sort of thing. And then ethics is, then what are we going to do with ourselves? What are our morals, our values? How am I going to treat myself? How am I going to, create my world, for instance? And then politics, even though we think of politics as in our country, Republicans and Democrats, or, something like that, politics is just any relationship with another person. So with your children, your spouse, your significant other, your parents, the grocery store clerk, we're in politics all the time. We're all dealing with politics right now. We have certain social standards for being on a Zoom call, right? And that's all politics. It falls under that, you know, how are we going to behave with other people? How are we going to treat them? And that includes the planet and anything that is outside of ourselves. And then the last one is aesthetics, which is how do we um, create um, a piece of art, for instance? How do we demonstrate, or how do we express? I was looking for that word. How do we express our philosophical ideas in a concrete way? So if I talk about freedom, um, there is nothing I can point to. I can't say, hey, this is freedom. That, you know, it's not an object. And so we can demonstrate and express freedom through art, through dance and ballet and drama and artwork, sculpture, painting, music, any of those things. And so that's aesthetics. And the reason I'm bringing that up is my question was about metaphysics. What is a soul family? And interestingly enough, a lot of people have come away with the politics of that. How do we interact with those other people, rather than the understanding of the metaphysics of it? Like, what is it? We just know that we incarnate together and we have some kind of relationship that keeps happening over and over and over again, but we don't even know what it is or how to identify it, right? Um, so, so by addressing the epistemology, I will do that because I'm a very strong believer in rational, objective metaphysics. But when we get into topics that are spiritually related, um, it's always an unfolding thing. You know, how do these develop? What do we know about relationship, you know, soul relationships? We know a lot about them, but you know, it's unfolding still. We don't know everything about them. And so what I'm going to tell you today is the best knowledge that I have, you know, the best epistemology as far as research and study and observation and feedback that I have, but it doesn't mean that it's the ultimate reality. That, you know, there's more that could be unfolding um, that we'll learn later. So next year, maybe this talk would be different, right? Um, so I'm not going to put myself out here as the ultimate expert on soul family relationships, because we are all in a process of learning and growing. But I will share with you what I've learned um, over the past, you know, 30 some years that I've been studying these things. Yeah, 30 some years. Um, okay, so then what terminology have you heard? Because, you know, obviously you've all, I think you've all, or most of you have been in contact with some kind of terminology around soul relationships. And there's a lot of different terms that are used. Debbie, since you're still unmuted, I'm going to pick on you. So what terms would you use if you're talking about different soul relationships?
You can choose, like, what I'm led or what I've read is that, you know, when you decide to reincarnate, you choose the sort of journey you may want. For instance, you may come into the world with parents that can't look after you, or as lessons to learn, or it could be where you may choose to be looking after maybe a child that is poorly, because it's going to be lessons that you're learning for both. But what I did have a past life, and what I found strange was I was a boy in a past life, and I was staring at myself, and I could see that it was my son, or it was my son's face looking at me through the eyes, and I couldn't tell whether it was me that was him or it was him that was me. I just didn't know, and I still like it now. I don't know. And sometimes I think I'm on a journey for something from my son in this life, because I knew it was him, but it was me. So it was really, so I just feel that I've got a real like soul connection. I have got one, and I know that that's real, but I just couldn't tell whether I was him or he was me. So it was just slightly confusing.
We may be able to sort a little bit of that out, or have some possibilities anyway of what that might be as we go through our time together today. So, there may be some other possibilities that you can consider for that.
Okay.
But what I'm really looking for is terminology, because how many people have heard terms like twin flames, right? And what other words are, Josephine, you're unmuted, so it's dangerous to unmute. No,
It's okay. I have a question.
I
anyway.
welcome it. Yeah.
So
What's your terms?
I have at work, I have this person who has, I don't really know him, but I have this like deep connection. But when I see him, I'm like, I'm kind of nervous, scared, but I'm happy. But I don't talk to him. And I feel like he's kind of like that too. Like even when we kind of I come across like in the hallway or elevator, I just said hi. When we say hi at work, we say hi Mary or hi Josephine, but that person, I think we're the only people who says hi without saying the first name. So I don't know. And then his secretary talked about, so I go like, oh yeah, I come across your boss, and he goes, yeah, did you say hi to him? I was like, yeah. Did you say his name? It's like, no. Josephine, you have to say. I was like, no, I don't want to. I'm like, I'm nervous. I don't know. And then she's the one who brought up. She goes, oh, it's like, have you heard about TF? And I said, no, what does that mean? I didn't really think about it until like after a while. And then it started popping up on my YouTube feed, like twin flames. And so I asked her, like, are you talking about the TF as the twin flames? And she said, yeah. So it's like, I don't know. It's crazy. So it has like, I feel like I know this person, but I can't place where, because I know he's from a different country. I'm from a different country. But there's this familiarity that if I see him, like, I just feel so loved and at peace. And we don't even talk. Like, we just say nod when we see each other.
Yeah,
There's just no,
that
I can't
energy.
explain it. But
Right.
I just feel excited every time I see him. Like, I just feel so happy. That's it.
Huh? That's cool. That's cool. It's good to have people around that make you feel happy.
Yeah, even if
That's
we
cool.
don't really talk, we don't really, just whatever, just yeah, I see him in the cafeteria. I just like, I just feel so happy, and I think he is too, like, because sometimes if I look and he look, we both have this big smile on our faces. I can't
A
explain. So
secret love happening.
huh,
A secret love developing.
probably. It's like a big crush or something, but I
That's
don't know.
fun. That's good energy. Anybody else? Jan, you said that you've heard twin flame. What other terms are like that? Because actually, I don't know. I don't use that term. I've heard twin flames, but I don't know what the whole constellation is.
Well, people like to talk about soulmates,
Right.
twin souls. Those are the two big ones that I've heard of.
Right. So those are the terms I use.
Yeah.
Soulmates, twin souls, and karmic connections.
Mhm.
And I'm not, I've read books that talk about twin flames, but I think it's used in a lot of different ways, and I'm not sure how it relates. Like if that means soulmate, or if it means a twin soul, or if it means a karmic connection. And so the point that I really want to make on that part is the terms I use may be different than the terms someone else uses. And there's nobody that's right or wrong. But what is important when we're using words is that we're all defining it the same way, so that we can actually communicate, right? So if you're talking about twin flames and I'm talking about twin souls, we may not actually be talking about the same thing, because they might be talking about what I would call a soulmate rather than a twin soul.
Okay.
So, it's just really straightening out the language. So in my terminology, the the twins, or the soulmate, is sort of that really important special one, right? And we used to think of it as there being one other soul in all of the universe, in all of space and time, that connects like that, like the soulmate, like there's one other partner out there. And since then, we've learned that there are at least four. Four is the cap, actually, that we've come upon, but that there can be four. And I'm going to talk about how these relationships are formed, and then maybe it makes a little more sense. Well, actually, I can talk about it now. Um, as Wow. Okay, no. Let me define the different terms first, because once we launch into that, it'll be um, hard to go back and define. So, that's the special one. We know that at this point, we know that you can have up to four soulmates, which is a good thing, because time and space is a pretty big thing. There's a lot of room and time out there, eternity. So four of them. Um, Twin souls are
Mary,
more like brother sister relationships, that and there can be hundreds of those, hundreds and hundreds, maybe even thousands. I don't even know. I don't know a cap on that, a cap on a number for twin souls. And then karmic connections, of course, there can just be multitudes.
Mhm.
And if we go back and look at that, the soulmate is, like I said, it's that really special relationship. It's high intensity, and it can be the best of worlds and the worst of worlds, okay, because of the high intensity that it is. And it depends on how each of the souls, how each of the individuals are evolving. So if one of them is evolving really, you know, straight on, that they just continue to spiral upward, evolve, grow, learn, change, and the other one is kind of stuck and afraid and is holding themselves back, pretty soon it's going to be like a stretched rubber band, right? Because they're not going to fit together very well, even though they are that special relationship. Um, that special relationship is determined at the moment of creation of that soul. And we will talk about that in just a little bit, but it's created at that moment. So, there may be a soul that's out there, this one, floating around and has no soulmate for a while, but then another soul is created, and we create that off of a split. It's hard to start this conversation because everything precedes the other thing. Everything I talk about, there's backup information that I should have given you. But so let's say there's a soul here that has been growing, and it's advanced so strongly that it can no longer really stay in a single human consciousness, human body, and it'll split into pieces. And when that split occurs, maybe that's when this one created the soul that was the perfect match for this other one. And so now they have that relationship, right? So that's the soulmate, and there could be four of those. If you saw my thumb, there'd be space on, four different sides for a connection. And then these other souls, when that split occurred, then the other souls that have split off from this one, or it was one and they split off in all these directions, those would be twin souls to each other. And so they would feel like siblings, brothers and sisters, right? Like if you were a twin or a quadruplet, you know, being born of the same mother, you would have a lot of similarities and a feeling of comfort. Hopefully, I know there's sibling rivalry and things, which can happen with twin flames as well. But there's that familiarity, you know, whether you don't, you know, whether you like that person or you don't, or you get along or you don't, there's still that sibling feeling that is between you. Oftentimes those are people that you meet and, you know, like you, Josephine, immediately there's just, you know, I don't even know why, but we could be best friends, you know, we could be friends. There's a connection. That often happens with the twin souls. And of course it could happen with a soulmate. Um, and then the karmic connection would be like the cousins, right? So if we think about this in relationship to typical relationships we have now, the soulmate would be like the significant other or the spouse, something like that. The twin souls feel like brothers and sisters. Um, there's there's kind of an ease to it, or there's a lot of similarity, but it's not as intense. And then the karmic connections are another time removed, and it's more like having a cousin where you're not exactly the same. You didn't maybe grow up under the same household, but there's still a real familiarity and an ease with those people. And so, um, you know, we can have all sorts of relationships with each of them. And, you know, as several of you mentioned, we may not incarnate together in every lifetime. You may not incarnate with your soulmate in every lifetime. In fact, it's good to not incarnate every time with your soulmate or with any of them. Because we need to have time where we're learning other things. It's sort of like when you're, you know, if you have your spouse and you do absolutely everything together, you know, then there's nothing really new, no new experiences that you're bringing to the conversation, right? You're reading the same book, you're having the same meals, you're going on the same, you know, errands, whatever, you're having the same experience, which can be nice, but there's no outside input or no additional input. And so oftentimes soulmates will incarnate separately or at different time period, you know, different time periods, or, you know, their paths will not cross in a given lifetime because they need to go out and have these other experiences, each of them, and grow. And then they come back together and there's all this great experience that each of them brings into the relationship. um, Twin souls, I have found, and I've witnessed to a degree. I some soulmates can do well in a marriage or in a long-term relationship like that, but in a lot of ways, it's almost easier with a twin soul, um, just because it's not that intensity. You know, everything isn't that important. And each person in the party, or like you have your soulmate relationship, but maybe in this lifetime, you're partnered with somebody else, right? Um, that gives you the opportunity to develop your own purpose and, you know, kind of individuate a little more and grow in a different way, you know, even if they are in this lifetime, but you're not in a relationship with them, it still gives that opportunity to grow. So there's no rules that you can't, you know, that you have to marry your soulmate or that there's no other options, because there's a lot of really great options with your twin souls. You know, from my own personal view, and I'm not going to say that this is an absolute rule. But because of the, the incarnations with each other as twin souls and soulmates, it's it's I think that it would be optimal to partner within that family, within the soulmate and twin soul group of people. And there's hundreds, thousands perhaps, souls that, you could be interacting with that would fall into that group. Because the whole group, the group as a whole, has a similarity of purpose and a similarity of talent, and you would go back in history um, to that original soul. So that'll bring me to another part of this, and then I'll take questions because I think you might have some then. So if you have questions, you can write them down and be ready. So again, this is, I'm going to draw you a diagram in your head so you can kind of understand this concept. But remember, the diagram, just like a map is not the road, is not the actual scenery, it's just a map. This idea that I will illustrate for you is really just a map. And it's an idea, and it's the best idea we have. Doesn't mean it's the only idea, or later on, like I said, this could evolve as well. And one of the things that has evolved, because we used to talk about the beginning of time and space, there was just, one consciousness, right? What we might call God. There was just that. There was just consciousness. Well, we're not really sure about that now. And physicists are saying, well, there wasn't a beginning of time. Once time was there, then it was always there. So there was no beginning, no end, all that. So setting that part of science aside, just to get an idea how to grasp this concept, knowing that it is evolving with our concepts of science and reality. If for a moment we could think of consciousness as one cohesive thing that was God, that we might refer to as God, I don't know. Imagine for a moment, just like go inside and think about what it would be like to be that one consciousness that is everything, everybody, everywhere, all of time, and you embody the whole thing. That is your experience. And what would that be like? Any ideas?
Peace. Peace.
Jan?
Just
Oh.
peace.
Peace.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What else? How would you describe the experience of being there? There's nothing outside of you. You are everything. You know it all. You are everything. You exist in all time and are aware of it.
Pure love.
Peace and love. Okay.
Yeah.
My hippie friend, Jan.
What we all strive for, Mary Lee.
What?
It's what we all strive for. Back to peace and love and just
Unity,
Yes.
oneness, right?
yes.
Okay.
One.
Does anybody have an alternative thought to that? Are you all on board? Okay, Anna, what? Or who?
After a while, you feel lonely.
Oh, is that Gina talking? Okay, after a while, you would feel lonely. Good idea, yeah?
We have from Facebook, she says, Melissa Roman, it would be a bore to be everything.
Boring. Hi, Melissa. um, it would be boring. And what did Gina say? Gina, boring, oh, lonely, boring. And Jan would find peace and love.
What
Jan,
about, oh,
I would
I'm
have,
sorry.
no, I would just have a big argument with Jan, but I can because we go way back. Jan is the most curious person. And if you already knew everything, do you think that would be peaceful for you?
I don't know. Who knows?
There'd be no questions to ask and nobody to ask it of.
I can't handle that.
No, exactly. That's
Okay,
why
you
I was
got me.
laughing.
I've got it now. I want out. I need
I
to
wa-
explore. Let's first
That's why
out.
I was laughing. Jan would be peaceful with no questions, no curiosity.
Well, I already know everything. You said you know everything. Like, what would there be to ask?
I know, nothing to learn.
Yeah, if you're there, you are everything, and there's no time or space, and you're with everybody that you would ever need to have a lesson with.
No, there's no everybody because you are it.
Oh.
There's nobody there. Gina was right. You'd be lonely. It's just you.
Oh, it's just me.
It would be like you living in an isolation tank, or what do they call it? Sensory deprivation.
This is the beginning. This is the beginning. Okay.
One thing.
Beginning. Got it.
Yep.
And now we're gonna go explore. We're gonna find out what else.
You were probably the pioneer of let me out of here.
Got it.
What were you going to say, Cinda?
That's what I was going to say. You wouldn't be curious about anything, which I guess is boredom, but that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, there'd be nothing to be curious about because if you had a thought, you'd already know the answer. I mean, you would be Google, I guess. But a better Google, right? That had all the answers and was self-contained. So there was that urge, right? So that consciousness, this is theory, right? I'm not going to, because this is the best we know. So it broke up into pieces, right? So it split off so that it could lose part of itself, right? So that it could go back and learn and grow and seek and be entertained and educated and have experiences, right? Because really, if you're in a sensory deprivation, all alone with only your thoughts and you are everything, everybody, every time, it would be pretty crazy. So that one split off, and now each of those splits, all, like if you think of a starburst and let's say, each of these fingers, all these fingers now are separate spirits within that soul, or separate spirits within that soul, right? Then each of these can incarnate to be people, right? Can incarnate. And so typically that occurred at the beginning of time and space. So everybody you meet could find their way back to a single common existence, a common family, right? We were all part of that at that time, but we broke apart. And then so we break apart, and then maybe this one starts growing and learning and is hungry for knowledge and is integrating that knowledge and growing as a soul, and it gets big enough that it splits again, right? So now this one splits into another number of them. So these are twin souls, and these are twin souls from this split, but they are now karmic connections to each other because they're one separated, right? So they're twin souls to everybody on the same split, but the ones they left behind are karmic connections. So they're still connected. And they would still be able, if you did enough past life regression, you'd be able to go back and even trace to when you were a member of this family and go back to all the way to the beginning if you're that good. Kate Bush, does anybody know who Kate Bush is? English, Irish singer. Yeah, she's awesome. Got to look her up on YouTube. But she has a song where she sings about coming out of that first burst out of the one soul. So over time, you know, if you think about the fact that we've been doing this for millenniums, you know, for millions and millions of years, we've been, you know, separating out, but it doesn't mean we separate and do that every lifetime. It may take 5,000 years before your soul splits again. And people who aren't evolving or growing or learning aren't going to split. You know, maybe somebody else on their family in their twin souls might split, but they won't. And so, you know, if you're this one over here, and this is the one that split, you're left, you know, you're back here, and they're one generation, you know, further advanced than you. Right? Yes, Jan.
Do we know consciously when that happens to us? No.
No, no. You might be able to trace it back by doing enough past life regression where you can see that something happened. But no, I'm sure it's excruciating kind of experience, actually. Because can you imagine just breaking up into all these pieces and then, you know, so your consciousness is separated out there. So when you meet your soul family, when you meet your twin souls, let's say you meet 20 of them, and maybe one is really artistic and the other one is really stuck and the other one is really smart and the other one is really left brain mechanical, you know, all that. That was you at one point, right? You had all of that and then it broke up. And then, you know, some of the traits go with each of those pieces, but maybe a dominant amount go, you know, like a dominant amount of creative artistry goes with a piece that isn't you, right? You know, because that can be very, I want to say random, like an explosion, right? So you don't know. I mean, you are in all those pieces, but now you become aware of just the one, you know, like I'm aware of me. I know these other people who are twin souls, but I don't know their experience, right? I don't have their talents and their experience and all of that, right? Now, when we meet and we come together and work together, we can do even more, right? Because imagine getting a project done if it's you as opposed to maybe 10 of you, right? So if you're all on the same agenda to achieve a soul purpose, now there's 100 of you who can roll up your sleeves and get busy, you know, accomplishing this rather than just one of you trying to work on it. But that means that you'd have to coordinate with these other people, bring in their talents, you know, the smart one and the creative one and the hardworking one and the responsible one and all that, and bring them all together to work together as a community towards those goals. Doesn't always work that way, but yes, Jen.
So this is all happening on a soul level. So because I'm a mental health counselor, when I meet people that are fragmented or disassociated or having alters or things like that, that doesn't mean, I mean, but it could mean in my mind, knowing what you're explaining to me, that they're having some sort of split, you know what I mean? And this, their fragmentation could be related to this event.
It can. It depends. I mean, you'd have to do some really good regression work on them because soul fragmentation can also occur just in this lifetime from trauma. It's what you're probably working with most of the time.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. And that
Mary,
does happen to all of us. Yeah, Debbie?
only quickly, how would your own children fit in? Because you've got your soulmate, your twin flames, or your karmic. I'm sorry, I didn't know that terminology. All I really know would go with, I feel like we've got a connection, a soul connection. That's probably all I ever say if I feel that. So I haven't heard a twin flame. Obviously, I've heard a soulmate, but sometimes when you feel you're connected with somebody, you wouldn't say, oh, you're my soulmate, because you would feel that that's too personal to you if that is like a soulmate is. But what with the children? What would your children, what would that?
Well, it really depends, because we want to work with reality and not just the convenience of birthing a child, right? So your children could be twin souls. They could be karmic connections.
Mm.
It could be your soulmate. I know many times I have done that with my soulmate. I've been his mother. We've been two men together in a lifetime, just working side by side. We've been um, well, married, I mean, we've been siblings together. So, we've had all these relationships, and your soulmate could come in as a child or could be your parent.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
I mean, so
Mm.
we're going to come through the physical generations in all sorts of combinations, because maybe we just want to work together, and this lifetime, it's just not going to be that beneficial to us to be in a romantic relationship, because
Mm.
maybe it'll slow us down. We'll get so focused on the relationship that we don't get our purpose done. We don't do anything else. So, you're going to have a baby. Why don't I be your child? Because then you can raise me, and you can raise me properly, so that, because you understand our purpose. So now you're going to groom me coming up through these years,
Yeah.
and then I can carry on that legacy. And, and in a future lifetime, we can be back together romantically or in some other relationship.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Does make
So,
sense.
yeah, we don't want to confuse our physical incarnations with our soul processes, right? Because, that all is happening out there. And meanwhile, we're coming into bodies in various patterns. Yeah. Good question, though. That's a good question for clarity. What other questions do we have? Do we have other questions, Anna? Anybody? No questions? Huh. Does anybody here have questions? Because we can kind of wrap it up. I think that's a lot to think about.
Maybe I've just got one.
Oh,
Sorry, I seem to be taking over tonight. It's just that when I had that past life and I was looking at myself, but I could see my son, and I didn't know whether it was he me or was I him. That was I've constantly thought about that over the years, thinking I can't quite understand who it was.
well,
With my
so that could be, it could just be you need to do the regression again and again and again to figure it out, right? But it also could be, um, if there has been a split at some point, if you went back to that regression, maybe it was, I don't know, 100 or 200 years ago. How long ago was the regression?
it went dated back probably around 1700s.
Mhm. So if there had been a split at some point between then and now, then you and he would be the same soul at that point. I'm not saying that that's what it is, because you'd have to do the regressions and you'd have to look at it very carefully.
I knew it was me. When I was standing there looking, I was like, I know that's me, but why do I look so much like him? And why is he looking back? And it was something in the eyes. It was just like that. Wow.
Well, it's funny, because my daughter's birthday was last month, and I was looking through some pictures because I wanted to bring up, pictures from when she was little, kind of through the ages. And there was a picture of me, and they had taken it. It was back in the 50s, right? I am that old. And so it was, you know, the way that they did it in the studios then, but I was looking in like a little hand mirror. So it was the back of my hair, because my hair went down to my butt at that point. So they had a nice picture of my long hair. And I was looking into the mirror. And so my face was here, and then the back of my head was here, right? But when I, you know, and that was me. I always thought that was me. And when I look at the picture now, it is absolutely my son. And
Oh,
I
wow.
showed it to my daughter and I said, doesn't that look like Quincy looking back at us? And she goes, oh my God, that's Quincy. I mean, it looks
Wow.
just like him, more
That's
than it looks like
amazing.
me. Yeah, it looks just like him looking back at me. So, you know, and that would be now genetic material, you know, I mean, we have similar features, but if you look at him and me, I don't think you would say, oh my gosh, you guys look alike. But in that picture that was supposed to be me as a child, that's him looking back now. It's crazy. It's
Yeah.
really crazy.
But you
So
looking in a mirror, that's a strange photo of it. You being young, looking in the mirror, that even at that age, that was a little bit like a past life. You know, that just that photo where you're looking in a mirror, it's rebounding back. It looks like your son. That's like past life. So that's like, that was your career from a child.
yeah, hold on. I can get the picture and I'll show it to you.
Okay.
Talk among yourselves. I had it just over here. If I can grab it. Let's see if you can see it on the, oh, here it is. Okay, so if you can see,
Oh, wow. Oh,
Wow.
wow. That
But-
is
Can
amazing.
you put it back and everyone keep quiet for a minute, because when people talk, we can't see it anymore. I can just see you, Debbie, I think.
oh, you know what? Change your view
Yeah,
up in the corner. Change the view to,
speaker
no, away from speaker,
to gallery.
gallery, because
Okay,
then everybody's here.
okay. Wow, that's beautiful, Mary
And
Lee.
you know Quincy, so
Yeah.
Jan knows him, but
Mhm.
you probably didn't see him. But that is like Quincy looking back at me now.
So,
It's
so let me clarify. So are you saying that your soul had split off then and he was your child? Like that was a piece of you that, no?
No, I was really more trying to make a point that, you know, we can look at people who are related to us, and I know that that's me, but, you know, we can see that it looks like him. I'm trying to grab a picture that would show him. Oh, well, there he is. It's really little because he's in the red shirt.
Yeah, I could totally see that. Yeah.
But that's the face coming back here.
Yeah.
It's
Wait,
weird.
what is that picture? Wait, put that back up there. What's
Oh.
that with the braids that you just
Yeah,
showed?
that was different.
Oh,
Yeah, we
yeah.
want to see that
So,
one.
yeah, that's his face. Look at his face. But that's me.
And that's you in a different time when you were littler doing the same
No,
thing?
that was the same
Oh.
photo shoot, but then they quickly did the braids and then took a picture.
That's
But
beautiful.
I still have, they put it into one braid and cut it off when I got my hair cut. So I still have the braid.
Wow.
Oh, where did
So, but
you go? Here. So maybe you can see his face and this one. Wait, let me get it over here. There.
Yeah.
Can you see I can't tell what you see. There.
Yeah, almost.
You can see it, definitely.
Yeah,
Isn't that weird?
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like you got to see an image of your child before he was born.
It's so weird because when I look at that now, I can't see myself. I can't see my own face. All I see is Quincy looking back at me. It's so crazy.
Weird.
but I think it happens when with our children. Like my daughter she has a picture that looks exactly like me when I was a certain age.
Right.
So it happens with our children because they inherit some of our features.
Yeah, but that's me. Well, yeah, I
I
guess
know, yeah.
same.
So he inherited some of your features. But my question was, yeah.
So that's after they cut my hair. So they did a before and after.
Wow.
Anyway,
So
so
cute.
your question was?
So, but I believe when you said about the twin souls getting split, because this person that I was talking about, that I don't really know from before, right? When he smiles, we have a big similarity. It's like we're if you put us side by side laughing or smiling, people think people will think we're twins,
Oh,
and
that's
we're not related.
right. That's funny.
Yeah, and you know, so some of our coworkers like looking at my picture that I have at the office, and they're looking like, was that taken when you started working? It's like, no, this was from before I started working here. And some of his coworkers are coming over to my area and looking at the picture. And I got curious, like, why are they looking at the pictures at this particular one? And then there was an occasion when we had this event at work, and there was a picture of him is smiling, and I go like, oh my goodness, we look exactly alike, and we're not even related. So
Yeah,
you're probably right with the twins when they split. So there's a similarity and the
there can
qualities
be.
and stuff. And with
Yeah,
when we are doing the work or whatever, we are going to accomplish a lot because we are going to be on the same wavelength because we have the same kind of soul
right.
tie.
That's so, yeah, that direction and temperament too. A similar, oftentimes there'd be a similar temperament. I'm not going to say every time because, you know, from the time of a split when you became twin souls, maybe there's been 3,000 years and you've
Mhm.
had entirely different experiences. One person may have been tortured and traumatized and, all of this and had very dark and violent lifetimes. And the other person had, wonderful experiences. And so, their character and emotional natures and things can shift significantly into different ways, but at a very common denominator there would still be a very strong similarity of
Yeah,
character.
and I think we share the same core values too,
Yeah,
but we're really different personality. Like
I
I
think
used
you need to talk with him and get to know him and tell us next
oh my
week
God. I just
all
get
the
nervous.
details. I mean, what if it's your soulmate and now you have this opportunity to meet him? You never know. You'll have to do some regressions.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
probably the regression first.
I need to do regression.
I mean, we work in the same company, so he knows me, I know him, but we're not really friends, but we're acquaintances. So, but
Yeah. You just have to meet over a cup of coffee. So
oh.
anyway, are there any other questions? We've kind of used up our hour today. Any other questions about this?
Yeah, on Facebook, we have
Okay.
one.
Yeah.
When you meet someone with no karmic connection, then you have to get it right in this life in order to not deal with it again. And says, and does our DNA have past life memory? Those are from Melissa Ruman.
Okay, so the first question was, if you meet a karmic connection in this lifetime, what?
Then you have to get it right in this life in order to not deal with it again.
Oh, so karmic connection doesn't mean that it's like a karmic contract. It's really a karmic connection is just what we would call the cousins. That's just a term that we've been using. So it's just that other relationship. So those could be really good or really hard. And the same way with the twin soul relationship, it can be very good or very hard. And soulmates can be extremely good and extremely hard. So karmic connections are still really good people to connect with and work alongside, they would just be one family removed. So if you're living here, the karmic connections are down one level. These are your twin souls and these are your karmic connections. But again, you're still on that same lineage. So if you're having trouble with anybody that's of a karmic connection, twin soul, soulmate, always it's better to work through the relationship rather than trying to just ignore it or push it away, because you might as well let it develop and grow and get good. Oftentimes we come back when we incarnate, we come into a particular family or era or environment specifically so that we can um, help each other. If Jan and I are twin souls and she's here struggling and I'm getting ready to incarnate, I might think, well, what if I come down here and I can really help Jan? Because what'll happen is, let's say you have your twin souls here, and maybe one of them is really struggling, right? And kind of spinning out and closing their consciousness and really having a hard time. Well, that's going to drag the whole group in a direction, right? You're connected. That's sort of like having a family member who turns out to be a criminal and an addict and all of this. That's a crisis that you end up having to deal with and having to help and support, and you know but it's dragging the family down, right? It's having a negative impact. And so maybe you incarnate and say, okay, well, maybe I can help this person get them back on the right track. So even though it might be a difficult relationship and they resist that or whatever happens, it's still valuable because, and it's very selfish. It's what I call sacred selfishness. I would do that because it's going to help me and the whole soul family to come down and do that work and help other members of the soul family to begin to evolve. So
Go. Bye, Mary Lee.
Oh, you got to go.
Gotta
Yeah.
go.
Okay. Thanks for being on the call, Jan.
Bye.
Now we can talk about you.
Okay.
No, I love Jan. I met her. I moved out here in 1997 and I met her within the first few months. So I've known her almost as long as I've been here. So we've had a lot of adventures together. Anyway, any other questions before we close for today? Oh, Melissa had asked about DNA also.
Mhm.
Not typically, because what is happening on the soul level will inform how your cells are created and formed and developed. Yes, there is that influence that comes in here, but DNA is specifically a physical characteristic. So DNA is coming from other physical bodies, your parents, for instance. But what you do with that DNA is up to your consciousness, right? So, maybe you're like me. I had blue eyes. My mother had hazel eyes and my dad had brown eyes. My parents were brown haired and black haired, and I was a blue-eyed blonde. And I was the only one with curly hair. So it had to have been in the pool of DNA. It had to be available to me, but it was my consciousness that decided which of those DNAs I was going to exhibit, and likely the DNA that we choose or that we end up using to develop and express our physical body are ones that resonate the most with us through all of our lifetimes. So while the DNA is solely a physical attribute, there's a wide variety of genetic material there to work with. So you can pick Now, certain races, you're not going to, well, you do have blue-eyed Black people and, I mean, and hazel-eyed brown people. And, so there are variations that can happen, but it all had to be in the gene pool to begin with, right? It had to be there. But then it's up to you as an individual, as you're incarnating and developing that body, that consciousness is what's going to pull in and, determine. Josephine, are you drinking wine? Wait, I can't hear you.
It's water.
I was going to say, where are you? It's happy hour wherever you are.
I'm at home. I'm just fond of using my wine glasses.
Oh yeah,
I'm drinking,
makes
using
it more
my
fun.
fancy stuff. I'm alone here, so might as well use them.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, everybody. Any other questions, Anna, that came through? Thank you all for being here today. This is awesome. We're going to come back next week, Wednesday at 12. We're going to be talking more about hypnotherapy and past life regression. And I love it that people are coming on the calls here at Zoom, and you can get the link. I send a newsletter out. So if you're not getting the newsletter with the link, you can go to my website, maryleelabay.com, and sign up for the newsletter, and you'll get the link and come in and you can chat with us here, or just come meet us on Facebook. And I don't know, that might be it for today. See you all next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you next
Thank
week.
you. Have a
Bye
great
bye.
week.
Session.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Always fun to see all your beautiful faces.